I'm going to honor the fact that I've already got to do all this. I raised my babies. I got to see them walk first. I got to hear their first words. I got to take them trick-or-treating. I got to do all the firsts. It's their turn to do the first with their children. I want to be a mother-in-law like Mary. She knew how much her daughter-in-law wanted to be there so desperately for her daughter's first steps. And when Lily gave those to Grandma. Hey there, welcome back to the Mind Your Boundaries podcast, episode number 18. I'm your host who is a little bit obsessed with all things boundaries, Jessica Miller, and today we have a real treat. Ever since my first mother-in-law video on Instagram went viral, you have been asking me for an episode that's focused on best practices for mother-in-laws. Now, since I'm not a mother-in-law myself, I thought it would be kind of cool if I took what I've learned from my own mother-in-law, how it impacted me, what I've learned through just personal experiences, professional experiences, the conversations we've had in the DMs, what I just know about human behavior, my values, talk about like some principles I'm gonna take forward when I do hopefully someday become a mother-in-law. Combine all that in one episode, plus we're going to hear from daughter-in-laws, and we're also going to hear from mother-in-laws who have successfully managed to create respectful and loving relationships with their daughter-in-laws. All that today. So I can't believe I even got that out in one take. So we're going to be talking about all that, but I really want to know, are you a daughter-in-law or are you a mother-in-law? So drop it in the comments. If you're a daughter-in-law, let's use a star emoji, and if you're a mother-in-law, let's do the purple heart. My mother-in-law had a very split-second decision to decide, do I jump on the bandwagon of Jess or do I raise a fuss? Her son and I had a whirlwind romance, and we met and married within 6 weeks. Could you imagine your son bringing home his future wife and you had to make this decision of get on the train or not because they're going to get married in under 6 weeks? Oh my gosh, now being a mom and my daughter's almost 16, I think to myself, would I have made the same choice as her? So she really had to just make a quick decision. What am I gonna do? To my delight, and I'll be forever grateful, she just opened her arms and embraced me. Not only did she embrace me, she's the one that gave us a ride to the airport. She had the champagne ready for us. She picked us up from the airport after we eloped. She threw us a party to celebrate the fact that we were engaged. And after the wedding, here's some things that she did that I really think are helpful in what I'm gonna do when I become a mother-in-law. She would openly have conversations with me about things that she didn't like pressures that were put on her by her mom. She didn't want that to be put on our little unit. And so she would tell me, this is what happened to me. I don't want to do that to you. So please give me feedback if you ever feel like I'm pressuring you. Don't feel pressure. And so she always encouraged feedback, and she showed her love in such practical ways. For example, when she would come over after we would have one of our little babies, I would expect her to just zoom right over, scoop up the newborn, and then give me some time to freshen up the place. Hey, I have a favor to ask of you. If you like the information I'm putting out or you find value in this, can you please subscribe to the channel? I'm trying to get it out to more people, and that definitely helps. I appreciate you. No. She would come over, she would have a meal prepared for me, so that would go in the oven. She would get me all nestled in with my baby, and then she would deep clean my apartment. That was her supporting me, giving me more just time with my baby so that I could bond with either Allie or James, and then she would clean. Weeks later, I asked her at Easter, I said, Julie, why are you not holding the baby when you come over and you're cleaning my house? It's kind of different than what I expected. And she said, oh, it's something that my mother-in-law did for me, and I knew someday I was going to pass that tradition along and do that for my kids. And I thought, oh, I'm doing that for my kids too, because what a treat. I mean, can you imagine? You're just literally fresh out of the hospital. You don't want to move around and scrub toilets or do dishes or worry about laundry or dusting. She took care of all that for me every week for the first, I don't know if it was the first month maybe. So every week she would come over and do that for me with a meal. It's just so generous of her. And all this generosity and all this love that she opened her arms up with me or towards me really set the tone for our relationship and our journey together going forward. But like all stories, they're not perfect. And we had some turbulence. When I was pregnant, I had my young ego, so I had my immaturity, I had my ego, and so you have this cocktail, and then you throw on gasoline of pregnancy hormones, and all the ways she would support me up until this point, all of a sudden, it was like they flipped, and I saw them as competition. Like, oh, Julie's trying to compete with me. What happened was, I was 7 months pregnant. I had not got that urge to nest at all. And we were over at their house. I went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and I came out, and directly across from the bathroom is a bedroom. Well, it used to be a bedroom. And then I look in there and I start walking in. It's a full-blown nursery. A full-blown nursery. We're talking crib, bassinet, changing table, the little windmill. What's the thing called? No, I'm sure you're telling me it. You're like yelling it, but that thing was up. They had a dresser. She had a dresser in the closet, like full of baby clothes. I think I saw stuff all the way up to like 5T. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even make a nursery yet, and I'm the mom. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of, oh yeah, like it's on. Like a competition thing just came up inside of me, and it wasn't that at all. She's a new grandma. She's excited. But I interpreted that as like single white female vibes. And let me tell you, I got my nursery done in no time after that visit. She's trying to show that she's the better mom. She's trying to, she's a threat to me, basically. All the things, all the ways she was trying to show me love, I felt she was challenging me, threatening me. She was in direct competition with me, and I pulled away. And I don't know if she could tell this because I just kept it to myself. I mean, I talked to Ryan about it, and though he didn't really know what to do with it because he was like, I think my mom's just behaving the same way she always has. And I'm like, no, she's crazy. She's trying to compete with me. And I'm sure if I asked him, I never have, I'm sure he's probably like looking at his unshowered wife that just gave birth, like looking at me like, are you sure my mom's the crazy one? But luckily for him, he knew not to say that. Eventually, I grew out of that. I was able to step back and reflect, okay, this woman has never changed. She's never wavered. I'm the one that has gone through so many changes in terms of my body and the hormones. And I think I just grew up. That's the thing. I grew up. But there was definitely a time when our kids were young that I had this twisted belief that I was competing with her, and it was all on me. It was not on her. But I share that because I don't think that's uncommon, because I talk to daughter-in-laws in here and they feel the same way. It definitely is a good, helpful nugget. I'm not saying this is for everybody. Don't get in the comments saying like, whatever. I'm saying this could be helpful. So much so that when my son decides to marry, I do plan on telling her, this is what happened to me. And so if you ever feel like all of a sudden things are changing real fast with me and you think I'm competing with you or I'm a threat, it might be the cocktail of hormones, and just talk to me about it. You will never hurt my feelings. Now, based on my experience with my mother-in-law, what I value, what I've learned personally in my life, professionally, in the DMs, conversations with daughter-in-laws, conversations with mother-in-laws telling me what's worked, these are the 5 principles that I'm going to use when I get the opportunity to be a mother-in-law. Number 1, I'm going to be a source of support, not stress. I vow to bring positivity, but not overwhelm that little new unit. Number 2, I will not offer unsolicited advice. If you ask me, what do you think about this? I'll even double check. Are you sure you want to know? Number 3, I'm going to act more as a friend, not as a parent, because I want you to know that I'm giving you space and autonomy, kind of like I would a friend. But in that, I'm showing you I trust that you got this. Number 4, I'm going to ask before I assume. If I think little Johnny has cleaned up his plate enough and now he can have a cupcake, I'm definitely going to ask mom and dad before I serve up the little sweet treat. Number 5, I am going to honor first. I'm going to honor the fact that I've already got to do all this. I raised my babies. I got to see them walk first. I got to hear their first words. I got to take them trick-or-treating. I got to do all the firsts. It's their turn to do the first with their children. I want to be a mother-in-law like Mary. She knew how much her daughter-in-law wanted to be there so desperately for her daughter's first steps. And when Lily gave those to Grandma, she kept her mouth zipped, and she waited until that weekend. She got a text with a video that showed Lily doing her first steps to her mommy. And I will not intervene, but I will happily accept all the invitations to be there for the seconds. I think that's really important to realize that yes, you want to be there for everything, but remembering that you already had your chance and it's their chance, and it's just as good the second time around. I plan to keep the communication channels wide open. Just like my mother-in-law, she came to me after we were married and she let me know these are the things I didn't like, the pressures that my mom put on us, and I promise not to do that to you, and please give me feedback. So I'm always going to welcome feedback. I'm going to plant the seed with my daughter-in-law, letting her know my mother-in-law did everything right, and then all of a sudden I saw her as a competitor, and the only thing that changed was like I had hormone chemicals like raging through my body, and I didn't realize that it was on me. Like that's why it changed. I'm going to plant that seed just so she's aware of it. I'm also going to make sure I just don't overstep. I really want to make sure my son and future daughter-in-law, they understand I believe they can handle it. I want to be an asset into their life. I want to be something that they enjoy to have around, like someone they enjoy to have around. I don't want to be a burden. I want to help relieve them of stress and pressure and all that stuff. And so as long as they know I'm here for the good stuff, the bad stuff, the hard stuff, all you have to do is ask. I feel like I'm doing my job. I plan to give my support in practical ways. I'm going to pass along the tradition that Grandma Jean did, where she came over to my mother-in-law's house and did the chores so that she could snuggle with her newborn babies. I'm going to do that as well. I'm also going to pass along the tradition where my mother-in-law, she never showed up empty-handed. She always had a package of Pampers with her. Now, if you remember, diapers are so expensive, and I don't know if Ryan and I ever had to buy a package of diapers. You remember how expensive diapers were, and the fact that she would always bring a package. I am telling you, if there's one nugget that you have remembered, and if you don't even have grandbabies yet, just remember this nugget. Get them a subscription diaper service from Amazon somewhere and take that off their plate. Now let's pivot and hear from the daughter-in-laws themselves, things that they really want their mother-in-law to know. I believe these nuggets are going to be very, very insightful and helpful for you to know as a mother-in-law. Your daughter-in-law also wants you to get to know her. She would love to be included on your family text thread and be an individual, not just your son's wife. Several daughter-in-laws stated, we are on the same team, we just love the same guy in different ways. A few wanted you to know if you respect our family time, we'll include you more often. Quite a few stated, please respect the rules with our kids, we love you and we want to trust you when you're with them. This one made me laugh. She wrote in all caps, please stop giving me your old freezer items. Another daughter-in-law wants you to know it's okay to call and check in, whether it's on your son or the grandkids. It makes them feel loved and that you're thinking of them. As you can see, the common theme is that sometimes they need space. Sometimes they want you to ask them how they're doing. So don't always couple your daughter-in-law in with your son. Just check in on her. Get to know her. They also really want you to respect them as parents. So if they set rules, no matter how wacky they seem, fall in line and just know they're doing the best they think they can do with their kids at this time. So even though you don't agree, just trust them and respect their rules. Now, let's hear from the horse's mouth. We have mother-in-laws that are going to share with you how they have successfully built relationships with their daughter-in-laws that has respect, love, and support.
Realize that she has a mom and you are the mother-in-law. Also, stay true to who you are as the mother-in-law and as a person, and keep offering yourself and putting yourself out there, showing love and kindness and caring. It's hard not to go over the top and be too much, as I like to call it, or I like to say I'm a lot. But just keep being you and loving your daughter-in-law and your son.
I gained 2 daughter-in-laws the same year, both very different. I very much try to complement each of their strengths, not talk about them to each other, and just try to take their lead on whatever it is they need. We've also just added 2 grandbabies, and am just following suit with those same things.
Hopefully you're inspired. Hopefully you've got some really helpful nuggets from my mother-in-law, from the principles I'm going to carry forward when I get the opportunity to finally be a mother-in-law, from the daughter-in-laws just speaking to you directly from their heart, what they're looking for and what they need, and from the mother-in-laws themselves. If you are a mother-in-law and you feel like, yeah, I've done this, like I have a successful relationship with my daughter-in-law, share it with us in the comments. Like, tell us how you did it. Tell us kind of like your staple pieces of advice, like your little nuggets of wisdom, so that we can all grow and learn with you or learn from you. I wanted to share this book with you. It's called Mother-in-Laws and Daughter-in-Laws by Elizabeth Graham. It is Christian-based, but even if you're not a believer, you can just kind of like skip over the scripture stuff. There was an example here, and I believe it's super helpful for mother-in-laws, and one that I'm going to take forward when I become a mother-in-law. She said one of the wisest pieces of advice I ever heard was from her friend Carol, and she said when her son Chris married Vicky, she decided, I chose to forget everything I ever knew about my son and let Vicky discover him for herself. Oh. And if you're a daughter-in-law and you have a mother-in-law that has just knocked it out of the park, tell us how she did it. So then other mother-in-laws can be like, ooh, I like that. I'm going to take that one for myself. This is how we grow. We learn from each other. This would not be a completed episode if we didn't talk about boundaries. Obviously, with open communication, it's inviting the talk about boundaries. It's inviting the conversation. What do your boundaries look like and how can I honor them? And so you can start those conversations. You don't have to wait for them to say, ooh, this is a boundary for us. You can go to your son, you can go to your daughter-in-law, and you can say, I really want to make sure I'm honoring your boundaries. I don't know if you know what they look like, but just so you know, if I happen to hit up on one, please, like, I'm all ears. Just come to me, tell me how to fix it, tell me how to honor your boundary. I really want to work with you on this. I want to be a part of your life. I never want to be a hindrance. As we wrap up today, I want you to remember the roles we play in our families' lives are more than just titles. They are opportunities to build bridges, to support each other, and to cherish one another. They're chances to show love in everyday moments in every corner of our life, whether it be a pack of Pampers or a listening ear. The role of being a mother-in-law is such a sacred opportunity. I can't wait till I get to be one. My experience having a mother-in-law has been amazing. And you know, if you are watching all the videos, not everything is always roses. You remember that our family was affected by estrangement. And so even though my mother-in-law and I get along really well and we do have a close relationship, for 2 years, we were estranged, and that was because for a long time, we didn't understand boundaries. We didn't know how to set and hold them. We didn't know how to communicate them properly. We had it all wrong, and so we had a lot of mistakes happen, hurt, trauma, and so even though I'm presenting all of this in such a fluffy way, I just want you to remember, I do know we have baggage, and my mother-in-law, she crushed it. Working with mother-in-laws has been awesome, and hearing directly from daughter-in-laws, especially the ones that truly cherish their mother-in-law, just want you to be so excited about this new chapter in your life. And just remember, you just have more now. You have more love to give and you have more love to receive, because now you have a daughter-in-law that's going to shower you back with the love that you give her. Like I said in the last episode, boundaries are not lines in the sand. They are about coloring our lives with respect, understanding, and a whole lot of love. So until we meet next time, make sure you keep minding your boundaries and building brighter relationships.